Welcome to the channel, everyone. My name is Nick. For those that are new to the channel, hopefully by the end of this video, you do become a subscriber. So we have been noticing a big shift from the US government, specifically around stablecoins. And we also been hearing a lot about RLUSD, and we are getting a little bit more of a glimpse into what Ripple is trying to do with the RLUSD stablecoin and XRP. In fact, Monica Long, the president of Ripple, actually confirmed exactly what's going on. And I think that this clears up all of the confusion around, what RLUSD is doing and, how XRP fits into the picture. And I think that the biggest misconception also around all of this is a lot of, XRP haters going out there and saying that, oh, XRP doesn't matter at all because of RLUSD. It's so far from the truth. And I've tried to outline this many times over, but it really does, feel as if like nobody is listening. I know that there's a lot of you out there that do listen, but it just still feels like a lot of people are kind of confused on exactly what's going on here. But nonetheless, enough wasting time. Let's actually look into what's going on here. Number one is RLUSD continues to get minted. Now, this one was actually on the XRP ledger. This was about 350,000. Now, this was the only one that I actually saw that's more recent. Outside of that, like on April 2nd, we did see about 50 million, which is exactly what we want to see. We want to see these large clips like this getting fully released. This was a pretty small amount compared to like the previous ones where there was like over 100+ million released in like one go, which is I think it was like 25% of the supply of RLUSD, which is insane. But right now, if we actually look at RLUSD, we do have about 294 million out there in circulation. Trading volume around RLUSD is also around like $88 million. So again, there's a lot of adoption happening here for the stablecoin. And if we look at USD stablecoins in general, RLUSD is definitely moving up on the list. We're sitting at, in terms of like the actual numbers here, it's like 10 or 15 or something like that on this list. Regardless of that, we're so close to actually flipping a few other ones. I think that by the end of this year, just like Ripple did predict, we'll probably be at number 5 on this list, which is kind of crazy to, say, because that's about $2 billion in terms of market cap. And at the current state in which, XRP or RLUSD is at right now, you're talking about like 1.7 billion still to be released to actually get to that top 5 position. But I am very excited to see what happens next with RLUSD, especially with all of these acquisitions happening and all of the moves that Ripple is making. But if we look at the XRP ledger on rwa.xyz, we could see that right now there is about 94 million tied to the XRP ledger in terms of RLUSD. But I'm mainly looking at the adoption of the stablecoin itself, which is very significant concerning the holders tab, right? Over 383% of an increase in the last 30 days in terms of actual holders. We also see monthly transfer volume up over 122%, 995.6 million, and then monthly active addresses almost 5K, which is also an increase of about 22%. So we love to see that. Again, it's very clear that adoption around RLUSD is picking up. And if we actually look at xpmarket.com, I think everyone out there, especially all of you that do hold XRP, you should probably keep a close eye on this website, because this shows us all of the token rankings on the XRP ledger, and it also shows us all of the liquidity pools. Now, RLUSD is number 2 on this list, and we can actually see the market cap of RLUSD. We could also see the holders here, 32.5K holders. The traders, 466.7 in the last 7 days. The DEX volume in the last 24 hours, over 10.8 million. And then also the volume in general, 10.8 million. But if we actually look at this, okay, the thing that I'm looking at is volume. The volume recently just hit an all-time high of about 16.5 million in a single day, and that was on the 6th. Right now, we're sitting at about roughly 12 million or so, nothing too crazy, but the fact that there's this much trading volume happening around the stablecoin on the XRP ledger is very, very bullish. And also, you can look at the AMM pools here as well, and you can see how much volume is tied to it. XRP RLUSD is like number 1 here with about 6.6 million in liquidity. You also see 1 million in volume 24 hours and 8.6K transactions. So again, just in terms of overall adoption here for the stablecoin on the XRP ledger side, very, very bullish. Now, I do want to talk a little bit more about stablecoins in the US because it does spotlight how bullish this is for Ripple, but also how bullish this is for XRP and XRP holders. Now, Subjective Views reposted this video. Now, we all already know about this video clip. I'll play it real quick just to kind of get it out of the way.
And we are going to put a lot of thought into the stablecoin regime. And as President Trump has directed, we are going to keep the US the dominant reserve currency in the world, and we will use stablecoins to do that. Thank you.
So again, stablecoins are going to be that key to actually support the dollar, but they're going to rush through stablecoin legislation to soak up all those treasuries that countries are about to dump. And I do actually think that this is the move. I think that that's exactly what's happening now with the tariff discussions. China threatened that they're going to dump US treasuries. So it definitely does make a lot of sense. Now, by rushing through laws like the Stable Act or Genius Act, Congress could create a framework where private issuers are incentivized or required to hold substantial treasury reserves. This would effectively create a new domestic demand pool to soak up excess supply. The Trump administration, with its support for crypto and dollar dominance, might see this as a strategic move to stabilize the treasury market while reinforcing the dollar's global role. And again, this was Scott Bessent talking about this and their intent to actually leverage stablecoins for the dollar reserve currency status. But what's interesting about this is, we have over here that President Trump's executive director of digital assets says that they are ushering in a golden age for crypto. Now, this is, again, another signal around this, because, again, we already heard about this golden age for crypto over the last couple months, especially from like David Sachs and things like that. But, when we hear this, it's interesting because we think about it and we're like, how are they going to do this? How are they going to usher this in? Well, it's through adoption, and it's actually through the recognition of integrating this tech. Over here we have from Bo Hines. He said that digital asset firms were victims of a weaponized justice system under the Biden regulatory regime. President Trump is the true crypto president. Under his leadership will usher in a golden age for digital assets and emerging financial technologies. Now, I do think that this has something to do with also the recent executive order, which we'll get to here in a second, but also this new video of Scott Bessent, where he's actually doubling down on his original post about stablecoins over here. And this is actually from Bank XRP. We will take a close look at regulatory impediments to blockchain, stablecoins, and new payment systems. Check it out.
We will take a close look at regulatory impediments to blockchain, stablecoins, and new payment systems. And we will consider reforms to unleash the awesome power of the American capital markets. Americans deserve a financial services industry that works for all Americans, including and especially Main Street. Under President Trump's leadership, the Treasury Department and I will deliver that to you. Thank you.
So again, the big focus now is them talking about and openly addressing blockchain, stablecoins, and new payment systems, because this is all, tied to one another. Because the new payment system, the new financial system, as we know, is, bridging legacy systems to the new, ledgers, the new networks, stablecoins as well being the main driver around all of this. And what's crazy about this is we look at all of the moves that Ripple has been making recently, like for an example, the acquisition with Hidden Road. And this is showing us that the stablecoin market is not just, becoming, a huge market, but it's expanding rapidly with traditional markets and traditional institutional players as well. And Ripple is also accelerating this through their acquisitions and their moves. But we look at how is this going to affect XRP. And over here, we do have from Monica Long, the president of Ripple. Big shout out to Riz XRP for this, and also Crypto Airy. But check this video clip out.
You just sort of explain where you see the relationship then between what you're doing with the stablecoin and XRP, because traditionally it was XRP that was used or used in some of your products in terms of cross-border transactions to make that faster and quicker and for the liquidity, etc. So why can't you just do that with the RUSD rather than requiring XRP at all?
Yeah, so we've always been believers in a multi-chain, multi-token future. And so we think that different tokens and different chains, for that matter, are useful at different times for different use cases. Let's take XRP first. XRP is the native asset to the public blockchain, the XRP ledger. So inherently it has a use case in terms of gas fees, as well as for reserve accounts. So that will always be there, and the more that the ledger is used by more developers, more end users, you see demand for that token going up. In addition, a really novel thing about XRP was, as the ledger was created, it had a decentralized exchange built into it, and so trades within that decentralized exchange that don't have immediate liquidity between them auto bridge through XRP. So this is where we've talked about it as a real bridge asset. And even beyond the Ripple payments use cases, so within our payments product, by the way, we still do use XRP as well as stablecoins, and it kind of depends on the customer's use case and what's most efficient. I will say, yes, we see a lot of growth within stablecoins for our payments product this year. But as more types of developers build products, either within the XRP Ledger ecosystem or other chains, this DEX feature and using XRP for liquidity will be a bigger and bigger use case.
So again, when we think about, XRP is a vital digital asset to the entire Ripple strategic move around RLUSD. This is why I keep saying that while everyone is out there talking about how RLUSD does nothing for XRP and XRP holders are getting, completely screwed by what Ripple is doing with RLUSD, I can't help but to just laugh because they're so far from the target. It's ridiculous. But on top of this, she also doubled down on stablecoins and XRP ETFs. Banks in the US light switch flipped. Check this out.
One more on the US. In terms of the US, do you think it's stablecoins and the current bills going through the legislative process that come to pass first? Do you think that's the big focus for this year?
Yeah, in terms of legislation?
In terms of legislation.
They seem to be farthest along. I know there's also crypto market infrastructure bills in progress. Those do seem to be farther along. Also in the US, I would say another change within this year really is the acceleration of ETFs. There's been a number filed around XRP, for example. We've seen them for Solana, for of course ETH and Bitcoin, and so it's a big deal if the U.S., largest global economy, largest capital markets, is a player on the field now.
And for your business, Monica, for Ripple, are you seeing at this point in time, it's still kind of early days in terms of the improving sentiment in the crypto markets in the US, but are you seeing more business requests, acceleration of revenue growth in the US?
Yeah, it almost happened overnight from the election, where the engagement from banks in the US changed. It was like a light switch flipped. And so you think of banks who are offering reserve bank services to stablecoin issuers like us, or transaction banking services. If we remember March, the collapse of the Triple S collapse, Silvergate and Signature and whatnot, and that was a systemic risk to the whole industry. And so I think the more banks, the more distribution and that we have of banking infrastructure supporting us, the healthier the crypto economy can be. So definitely have noticed a change in that. The other big change is with SOB 121 going away. So this was the bulletin with the accounting rules that really restricted banks from holding crypto on their balance sheet. We certainly see much more interest in custody as well.
So yeah, I do think that this is probably one of the most important things to focus on when it comes to Ripple as well, right? Which is the fact that they've been working around the institutional space for so long. They've been working and talking to banks for so long as well. All they really needed to see was that big shift from the regulatory side, which did happen after the election. She even did say, it really started after the election where it kind of felt as if a light switch flipped, because from that point on, all of these big banks and all of these big institutional players were like, all right, well, let's get into this. We have to jump in on this because they're also aware of what's going on. The entire landscape around payments and finance is changing, and Ripple is a huge driver of this. And they've always been a huge name. They've been expanding rapidly. They've been making us so much noise. So much noise ever since that lawsuit happened. Nothing stopped them. Nothing slowed them down. They just continued to expand rapidly outside of the US. So now, all of these big deals are happening. All of the big moves are actually happening around Ripple as well. And I think that this is probably one of the biggest things that everyone needs to actually focus on, is the fact that Ripple has been prepared for this moment for so long, and RLUSD is going to see so much traction here. And yes, XRP will be the gas token. XRP will see so much adoption alongside of this because of the volume and the value moved over the actual underlying network, where XRP is the powerhouse of that network. This is why I think everyone really needs to learn how the stablecoin actually works and how it works over networks like the XRP ledger. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord on the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.